received a generous grant from the Mississippi Humanities Council to make this possible. Nancy Kosman is going through and reorganizing the museum's subject files, which were part of the library, and in the move from the library to the museum, they weren't necessarily moved in an orderly fashion. So Nancy's reorganizing the files, and we are working with scholars to present programs from the subject files, hence we're calling it from the archive. We're also digitizing these files, and they'll be available for public use on the museum's website, and all the presentations they're being recorded as podcasts, and so if you enjoy this, you can hear it again on the World Wide Web. Now, the views expressed herein do not necessarily represent those of the Mississippi Humanities Council or the National Endowment for the Humanities. But we are very grateful for their support. We also have the support of the Mississippi Arts Commission, Michael Lloyd Young, and other friends of the Delta Blues Museum. It's exciting for me to, I think everybody here probably knows Mr. Malcolm Tillis. He co-founded the Gospel Festival with Joy Sky. Catherine Clark, who's on her way, was the first volunteer, or one of the early volunteers, and she's currently the treasurer of the organization. And then Patty Johnson and Jim O'Neill we have to thank for co-founding our festival. And there's footage from the old festival in the gallery, and you can see what it started and then what it's turned into over here. So y'all didn't come to hear me enjoy the program, and I'm going to turn this over to our panelists. The Mississippi Humanities Council is an independent, nonpartisan, non-political organization funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities and private donations. The Council's primary objective is to shed light, not heat, on the public policy issues of today by examining the larger value questions involved through the use of philosophy, literature, history, and other disciplines in the humanities. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Welcome, everybody. This is reminiscent of the crowds at the early Blues Festival. It's hard to imagine the changes that have occurred in Clarksdale since the Blues Festival started, and I think the Blues Festival had a lot to do with it. None of this area here, this Blues Alley, had been developed. These were two abandoned depots and an abandoned store or warehouse over there where Ground Zero is. And all of this has come about jointly through the Blues Museum and the Blues Festival. The festival started in 1988, and I'll let Patty talk about how that got started, because the funding was just from local merchants primarily at that time, and they had no idea that it could be a tourism event.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement right there, because when we first started talking about things like this, they didn't believe that tourism was even an industry that was going to benefit Clarksdale at all. Why would they come here? People were saying, and we just kept saying, no, they're going to come. They're on the way. Let's get ready. But actually, the Mississippi Delta Arts Council and the Downtown Business Association, Downtown Merchants Association it was then, kind of really started the festival. 2 years before our actual first festival, there was a Downtown Merchants Day, and John Livingston, who was also with the Mississippi Delta Arts Council, asked if Little Milton would come and appear at their downtown day. And they said, we don't have any money, but we'll fly him in. We'll get somebody to fly him in, and we'll give him a nice room with flowers and things in the room. Well, Milton, being the very generous person that he is, simply said, I'm bringing my whole band, it's on me, and they did a performance. It was just wonderful here. So then the next year there was another downtown thing, and they said, well, let's just really kick this off and do a real festival. And that's where we really really got things started. It was with the help of the Chamber of Commerce in the city. It really started moving in 1988, and we had a nice festival. It was the Sunflower Riverbank Blues Festival because it was right on the riverbank. And the money was provided by the Arts Council and the Downtown Business Association, Merchants Association, excuse me. They changed the name later. But, and we had a nighttime venue, which was the Thompson Center. And it was that's what really got things started. It was really a handful of people. Jim and I, my kids Aaliyah and Isaac worked, who were 8 and 10 respectively at that point in time, worked like crazy. I think they ran back and forth from the riverbank on the other side to this side where we had the acoustic stage. They probably crossed that river, 100 times, I don't know. Selling t-shirts, though. That was really good. More thoughts?
Catherine, you want to tell us how you get involved in it? What do you remember about the early festivals in the association?
Okay, thank you. Well, my name is Catherine Clark, and I got involved. I was working with Miss Nancy Cosman, and she was the representative for the congressman at that time, Mike Espy. And so I was helping her, and she said, you know what, why don't you come down and meet Jim O'Neill? He runs the Stackhouse and it's the blues. And I said, well, I'm not really into the blues. You would like Jim. I said, okay, get down there. Sure enough, me and Jim hit it off. Blues, you go into it used to be the ice cream shop. And you can still see it. It's a little boat on Sunflower. And I went in there and he had it looking so charming and he had the blues going. I said, I might like blues. And sure enough, I started working with Jim also, helping him. And from then on, they roped me in to the festival, and I've been here ever since. I started out with doing everything, and then the beer tent, and then from the beer tent, treasurer, and that's where I've been ever since.
I have a comment, Catherine.
Oh, no.
Catherine said she didn't like the blues, and that was a very important factor. We'd had any number of employees at the Stackhouse, none of whom wanted to work when there was anything of importance going on. They all wanted to be part of the other thing. Catherine was the one that we could count on. And you know that's true.
That's right. Whatever y'all needed.
Tillis, I think you were going to say something.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm 84 years old, so I've been out here longer than all of them. I started the gospel program really before they started the blues program, and we were doing it on a screen, and we were going a pretty nice crowd, and somebody asked me to come and join Sunflower Blues Association. My buddy Julius guy didn't want me to. I said, well, we need to get together. We got together 4 years later after blues, and I've been with it. When we got together, they made me chairman or whatever they call, and I've been that ever since. They left me, taught me how to carry it on. They worked with me good, and we kept it going for them because they the one that started. That's right. And that's how it's grown. So they taught me real well. We had a group that really worked with me and would tell me I could ask Jim O'Neill. And when I was working with him, we worked well together. And this is blown out of sight now with a lot of help. We have a lot of volunteers, and the town is doing a whole lot better with us than they have been done. So everything is going well. I'm proud to say that when they got started, the old library was here. I also worked with them. I'm a teacher. I've been there for 35 years. So I've been out here working a long time. I had one of the nicest blues clubs that was known right here. And all of the great bands would come and play. Even when they go to Arkansas, they'd come play in my band and get together. and I didn't have to pay them. They play all night long. The city was supposed to close at 1, but they didn't bother me. I always been okay with the mayor. I'm gonna tell you just like it is. I was okay with the mayor, and he helped me. He tell me, well, stay open. As long as you're making money, stay open. Not only that, I'm sorry we lost Budweiser. When I started out, Budweiser furnished me with all the money I need to do my gospel program. When I joined this organization, he stopped. And I haven't been able to get him back, but we still good friends. Because all I had to do was tell him how much money I need. But I still got good friends, and some people will tell you I call them for $10,000. Believe it or not, I get it. And so that's what keep our fest going. Most of the people from out of town. If you look around, we want to see you to move around, ask us any question, enjoy our fest. If you need anything, ask me. I'll take care of it.
Thank you. I've always thought it was interesting that the person who started the Gospel Festival had the best blues club in town, too. That was called River Mount Lounge. It's not there anymore. It was on Sunflower Avenue near the highway. And I remember hearing Little Milton and Big Jack and lots of people that played and loved. It was a great place. And I think one of the things that's made the whole organization successful is that it's been since the beginning, black and white, and then it became blues and gospel. So it's kind of brought a lot of elements of the community together. I remember in 1988, some of the events leading up to the festival, we had a thing called Delta Jamboree, which was a little concert. I think it was broadcast on the radio too, and Andy McWilliams had a show in WROX. And I remember one of those events, I think the mayor said, and he looked at the crowd, he said, this is the first time that this many black and white people have been together in the same room in Clarksdale. And so that's been a characteristic of the festival too. I'd like to just go over a little history. So the second year, we arranged with the Arts Council and the city to have a festival. And it got closer and closer to the festival, and nobody had done anything. Then the Arts Council fell apart, there was no money. And when I went to Sid Graves, and he was director of Delta Blues Museum, he was always a big supporter, but he said, the museum's not in the festival promotion business. And so we finally got the Chamber of Commerce to have a meeting. And the festival was on August the 5th. On July 21st, Patty and I sent out a letter to as many businesses and supporters as we could think of.
We actually went through the phone book. Mm-hmm. We went through the Clarksdale phone book.
Right. Yeah, so I think that letter is posted out there. Yeah. You have a copy of that out there. And we managed just from donations to get enough money to pay some local bands to come. Actually, Jesse Mayhemple came from Como, and Blind Mississippi Morris from Memphis. So there were some good acts there, and we had it down on the riverbank. The only year it was there at the Martin Luther King Park. And I was going through my files that I brought down here to be organized along with the rest of the Blues Museum Clarksdale files. And I found the budget for that year. We got a total of $984 we put on the festival with. And 244 of that was from Coca-Cola sales at the festival. And the rest of it was local donations. And I think the Chamber of Commerce might have given us some money to mail out some flyers.
I think they did.
Yeah, $70. So, but anyway, we had Wade Walton, Mississippi Morris, Wesley Jefferson, Johnny Billington, Jesse Mayhemple, and I've got down here at the bottom, Ford, $10. Do you remember T-Model came at the last minute and we gave him some gas money? I'm not sure.
I do remember that we, in rounding up the musicians for this, we simply said, okay, we don't have any money. What money we get, we're going to divide amongst you. And they all agreed to it very generously. Mr. Johnny Billington brought in that cotton trailer and provided some his speakers that he took to places. This was a real volunteer effort. Lorenzo Nicholson helped put up the tents with the kids. We sold Coca-Cola, and the chamber made lemonade. Yeah, they made lemonade and sold lemonade. Angela and Jamie, Angela Abraham and Jamie, Jamie Oakman, right. Yeah. They sold the lemonade, and Boss Hogg brought his little portable trailer down there. That was all we had, and we had no beer. We had no beer licenses then, not until we finally got one.
Yeah, that's one of the other things that happened as a result of the festival and of blues tourists coming to town to want to go hear music in the juke joints and places like Red's and the Rivermount, was that some of the laws in Clarksdale actually got changed because Clarksdale had an early closing law. You couldn't stay open past midnight, and so they passed a law to allow later nightclub hours. Of course, Mr. Tillis never had to worry about that. I was always impressed you could stay as late as you wanted.
I didn't have no trouble. I stayed open.
And they also passed an open container law for the festival because at the first festival, the police were having a ball arresting people with their beer cans.
Dumping
They're really stumping them out. And I'm not sure. Was anybody here who got arrested?
They're still in jail.
Right, but Clarksdale once had, despite being known as the home of the blues, it once had a pretty strict reputation of being a place where the sidewalks were rolled up, at night, and as compared to Greenville on Leland, there was lots of stuff going on down there, and they never really got credit for what happened down there. But the Gospel Festival came along in. Like I said, Mr. Tillis had already started, but it joined with the Blues Festival in '93, so it became the Sunflower River Blues and Gospel Festival. You want to talk about the Gospel Festival a little bit and how they fit in with the blues or not, because they've always kept it a separate day.
Well, it fitted in nice, I thought, and we kept a wonderful crowd. Not only that, they also came to support the Sunflower River Blues Association. See, they joined in, and a lot of volunteers from the church would come in, help do different things as of now. But you'd be surprised to know how many volunteers we had. Not only that, Jim talking about small money, now we had $200,000 to try to put this thing on. And be surprised how we're going. This is going to be the biggest one we've ever had. So I don't know what we're going to do next year, but we're not going backwards. There are some things that in the city they want us to charge. They put in the paper, say, well, the Blues Fest is going to charge next year. The next day I sent out a letter saying, not the Blues Fest or the Gospel Fest, and put it in the paper. We're going to have it free. Jim left all this to me some years ago, and I'm going to keep it like you said, Jim. Keep it free. As long as I'm there. I had some good people working with me to really get me started on this. Like I work with Jim, work with my good friend, long years. I've been here for some years. This is my hometown, and I wanted to be big. I played blues too. I played with Acton. You might not believe it, even though they called me Toot. But I had to stop because Mama said, you got to go to college, boy. And I was a hell of a football player. had no money, didn't have nothing but clothes. That's how I entered college. But they took care of me. Paid the whole way through college. And they put me in the Hall of Fame. So I've been around and had to do it. And I had a lot of people to teach me a lot of things. Just like I said, I was the one to change the 1 o'clock to being late. Some people didn't believe it, but I fought it with the board till they tell me, okay. I said, well, you already let me stay over all night. Why can't we do something for somebody else? And they did. Clarksville is proud of the blues now. We don't have nothing else to sell. Now, you gotta look around, but we just don't have nothing else to sell. I tell the truth. You don't go with the blues now, we're gonna be left out. Memphis can talk, but the people that played the blues came from Mississippi. They just didn't have nowhere to record. They went to Memphis to record. But it's the Delta. It's the real blues. All of y'all know this. It's the real blues. This man here know more about blues than anybody. He might be upstate, but you better change that mind. He didn't turn around. He's been in Mississippi ever since. He found out this is where the blues, I better stay here. And a lot of folks feel that way. We do make a mistake in Clarksdale. We brought in Sheridan. Mistake, look how much you don't feel. Then we brought in some people. Didn't do as good as Sheridan. I still say they need to go. But yeah, I talk, you know, I'm a plain talker. You might not like about me, I'm gonna tell the truth. Ain't nobody giving me no money. I'm 84 years old. I'm soon die. I got cancer, I got everything. So I'm gonna tell the truth. I tell the man the truth. Baby, that's the name on the road.
I think one of the things that Mr. Tillage just said about Clarksdale doesn't have anything but the blues. Actually, I was going through some of these old clippings I brought up, and the newspaper actually made a couple of editorials like that, trying to promote tourism. Said blues is really the only thing we have to sell. And at one time, see if I have those brochures here, but Clarksdale's slogan when we came here was. This is the home of the big frog. Come be a big frog in our small pond. That was to attract industry to come here, so they would be big shots in town if they came and established something here. And then within a few years, it became home of the blues. And then after that, there was somewhat of a reaction to try to promote it beyond the blues, to put on a bluegrass festival or to do other things besides the blues. I remember one time a news crew came here and they had a meeting at the mayor's house. Do you remember that?
Which one?
When it was ABC Nightline. They came here in 1988 and filmed Wesley Jefferson at Margaret's Blue Diamond Lounge.
Right.
And the mayor had a reception for the crew, and I think it was the chamber.
John Mayo was the mayor at that time.
Right. And
yeah.
Someone from, I believe it was from the Chamber of Commerce, I won't name him, but.
The Chamber and the commissioners, they were all there.
Right.
And a little distraught that some of the finer points of Clarksdale were not being shown.
Right. Right, because Clarksdale, because we had the picturesque rundown parts of town where people go take pictures of the shacks and things like that. And of course, that's where most of the blues came from too. So that was the place to go to get the real images of Clarksdale for the blues. But I remember one of the comments that was made to the news crew, so we've got a nice Best Western over here. Why aren't y'all filming that? It's like they're going to come to Clarksdale to film a motel. You know?
Well, just to follow along on that, beyond that one, there was CNN also came and did a 3-part series called The Third World in the Mississippi Delta, 3-part series. I understand CNN is back here this weekend. Maybe we can show them the other side of the economic growth that's happened because of what's been going on here. This is, again, tourism it doesn't just have to be the blues. I mean, we've got rivers, we've got, of course, the Mississippi River, we've got agriculture, we've got architecture, we've got a lot of pluses here that, once the tourists come for the blues, they get to see some other things. And of course, we have the wonderful people here. That's the best.
And the Tennessee Williams Festival, and there's other events like
Other
that
events,
too. Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but there was not a tourism commission when we started the Blues Festival. The Blues Museum had been here for years, drawing people. But I think it took probably the Blues Festival to draw a lot of people at once to show that, wow, who are these people from Finland and Alaska, and why are they here? After a while, there was enough people walking around town, and local people would say, "You're not from here, are you?" And they're always for the blues, So that eventually convinced the locals to start a tourism board. And I think one person who hasn't been acknowledged, probably for his contributions, is Howard Stovall, who became chairman of the Blues Association. And when the Blues Association, we incorporated an actual association in 1990 in order to qualify for grants from places like the Mississippi Arts Commission and the Humanities Council and other National Endowment for the Arts, I believe. But so that we could be a real organization and not have to scramble as much. Though we still scramble. I have a letter from Howard.
Never stopped.
Have a letter from Howard here that says that the 1990 festival was put on in 6 weeks, which was better than the 2 weeks of
Moving right along.
But Howard, I don't know if y'all know the Stovall family. That's where Muddy Waters' house was on the Stovall plantation. And it created a big uproar when they leased the cabin to the House of Blues. The House of Blues disassembled it, reassembled it, took it out on tour, and they had it as an exhibit for people to come see for 5 years, but they paid a pretty hefty leasing fee to the Stovall family, and Howard donated at least half of that to help to keep the Blues Festival going. And I'm not sure it could have kept going without it.
No.
Or certainly couldn't have expanded like it did.
No, those years, Howard's generosity was beyond question. I mean, it was just amazing. Actually, I think for 3 years he donated all of it.
Yeah, right.
And then he became the president of the Blues Foundation in Memphis, and they needed some money, so he split the money then. So that his generosity is amazing. Yeah. And he headed the festival for a while.
Yeah, he was in charge of that, and then he became director of the Blues Foundation in Memphis. Yeah. Catherine, what have been the highlights of the festival to you?
What have been the highlights? Lord have mercy. Well, every highlight is to see someone dancing. I love Friday nights and Saturday nights. After the sun has gone down, the people have had a little too much to drink. But they're out there and they're dancing and they're having a good time. They're feeling the blues, and it just feels good. And everybody's together. And as they said, the blacks and the whites were together, and it just feels like a nice hometown. I mean, we don't feel segregated. Everything feels real nice. And then and you wish that you could keep this moment the whole year. Because this is the one time out of all year. I'm sorry. I mean,
No.
But it's the one time all year that we can come together and have fun as a community and a whole community.
I like to know, let's tell you, our volunteers are very much mixed. We have many whites volunteer than we have blacks. That's the only way we can survive as of now, since we got so big. I like to say, as you came in town, maybe you didn't see it, you see our guitars on the highway there, print the blues. I like to let you know that I'm responsible for that. I've been on the CPU board for 10 years, and to set that up, I was one of the sponsors, and really selected art and everything for that. And that's a good sign that we have coming in Clarksdale. CPU have been wonderful. As I started wonderful when I was on the board. They couldn't turn me down, and they still don't turn me down. Even though I'm not on the board, I've been off the board a year, but they don't turn me down. When I call, they say, what you need, Mr. Tillis. And I appreciate being a member. We have a new man on the board, which is working with me real well, named Gerald Manson, and he's doing real well. I like to let people know that, because when new people come in, we don't give them enough credit. We need to let the people know that we do have some new people coming in, because I was the one that hired him, though. Even though I'm not that. So he's working with me real well. We have Clarksdale working real well with us this year.
Yeah, we need to thank Coahoma Community College has been with us a long time. They have stuck through us, stuck by us through thick and thin. At the beginning of the festivals, when the festival started, we have to thank Luke Houston.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Luke, he came in and he was our beer person. But not only did he supply the beer, he gave us a certain amount, and that helped us. We depended on that certain amount to get the festival going. And then other stuff. If we needed anything else, we just tell Luke, and he'll come and do whatever we needed. So we have to thank him too. If it wasn't for him at the beginning course, we wouldn't have made it. That was another one.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we had wonderful people helping us as we really got rolling. The city provided all the electricity. The funeral homes provided us tents, and they would come set them up. One year we had the Army, the National Guard. They brought their tents. People really, really gave to help get this going, and that's just. We're always, forever grateful for all of that. And then the Delta Blues Museum, when the acoustic stage was down there on the library, John Ruskey really kind of kick-started that one. He erected a kind of a makeshift half stage, and people would on Saturday morning would bring their blankets and coffee and sit down there on the grass to have that part of it. It was really, really nice. And of course, that part has grown as well. But yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
How did y'all decide, in hanging the posters, the festival kind of moved around to different venues from the riverbank, I think over there in front of Ground Zero, when Ground Zero was something else, but how did did y'all decide that? Or why?
Well, the first is different. Yeah, you probably remember.
The first year was on the riverbank, and unfortunately, getting back and forth across the river, that became a difficulty. We were used to, any of you who are from around here, the Cat Cave has kind of a stage area there, and people sat on the riverbank. Well, of course, we really didn't have any money the next year, and so we needed to try and get something going. So Martin Luther King Park seemed a natural, it's a wonderful, hilly, it's kind of a natural arena there and trees. Well, that didn't seem real accessible. There wasn't any parking there or anything. So the third year, the old loading dock where the new addition to the Blues Museum is now, that again was a natural stage, and of course, none of this was here. None of this. It was an empty warehouse. And so there was a natural stage on the end, and people sat on what is now Ground Zero's front porch, and eventually the Parks and Recreation brought bleachers in, I think on the fourth year. So there on that platform was a great natural stage, and behind that was the warehouse, and we had a big fan, and people would just, that was our backstage, going in and out of there. And which brings me to C.V. Veal.
Right, he's another person. He was with us from the beginning. He didn't actually perform that much except as the MC, but he was a great MC, and we were hoping he would be here today. I guess he's been sick lately.
Yes, he's just gotten out of the hospital. Yeah.
But yeah, he was a former cohort of Mr. Tillis and Ike Turner back in the day, and he's led his own band here for years, and he's been a great personality in Clarksdale. He was kind of Clarksdale's answer to Rufus Thomas.
I have a comment. The reason that I said that leads me to C.V. Veal is backstage. There was, I don't know where we got furniture some places. There was a couch and a few chairs, and C.V. would eventually be out on the couch, just out, hot days, and then we'd have to wake him up to go make an announcement. It was fun.
Yeah. You mentioned someone else who's played a big role in a lot of the building up of the blues momentum in Clarksdale. I like to read a letter that was sent to the Clarksdale Press Register in 1990. It came from someone in Vermont that Penny Mayfield wrote. I wanted to write and thank you for bringing us to the Delta Blues Museum you all have down there. We did enjoy it, and I'm so happy that Muddy Waters' hometown has honored him because he has done so much in American music. He and all the blues musicians from the Clarksdale area are as great as any art or culture America has produced, and I love the music, just love it. I may be back in Clarksdale within a year or two because I love the blues and would like to find an older musician who would like an apprentice. Thanks again for making us welcome to your town. Sincerely, John Rusky. So John did come back to town. I remember him standing with his accordion beside the stackhouse the night he got there, playing by himself, and I thought, this is a weird guy.
That's what we all thought.
Yeah, he is. That's wonderful.
Yeah, the first time everyone saw him, he looked like a mountain man. Where is he? Who is this guy? He was just everywhere, and I could remember that his wagon that he had, it was everywhere, and everybody knew him. Everybody said, oh, that's John Rusky. That's John Rusky. I said, well, who is he? Where is he from? What does he do?
Let me say something about John Rusky. John Rusky, as soon as he came to town, we made friends. At that time, I was in gospel. He said, well, how can we get something that we can teach gospel? And we did. We moved. We got several other groups and started teaching gospel. We moved to teaching blues. And we would go around to the school. At that time, I was teaching. I said, well, I'm going to get you in my school. And they came and we would teach once a week guitar. Then I moved. After I quit, I got him in another school. And he kept on doing it. We had about 3 schools that we could get in and teaching blues.
Another person who was involved with the festival for a long time, he was actually the chairman of the Blues Association one year and did a lot for the teaching of blues around here, was Mr. Johnny Billington. And that's who I don't know if John Rusky actually apprenticed with him, but a lot of musicians around here did. And, most of the young musicians you see who would come up played with him at one time, and then later they played in the Delta Blues Museum's own education program. But Mr. Johnny was doing it on his own, out of the nightclub over in Issaquah and different places on his own. And so we owe him a lot of thanks too. He was here last night for the film screening, and so I think the Delta Blues Museum education program grew out of what he had started, and he's always been a big asset to the community here.
Yeah. Mr. Johnny was teaching after school on his front porch over on either Madison or Monroe over there, yeah. And the kids would be there after school, learning to play, and eventually he would, get them to perform with him. And he was a tough teacher. He really made them work. People who are on the festival now, Anthony Sherrod, Big A. I mean, he was smaller than his bass. His bass was way taller than he was, and now he's got his own band. So Mr. Johnny was really instrumental in the whole thing. It's great. He's always been really generous with us too. So yeah.
Go, Catherine.
We were talking about the locations. It did take a while to find a home. First, okay, there were 3 locations the first year. One was like behind the Stack House where there was the acoustic stage, and then there was the Cat Cave across the river, which I didn't see much of at all because I had to stay on the other side of the river. And then at night we had a concert at the Thompson Center. We actually charged admission for that. There was a pretty small crowd. You know, Otis Rush came.
We learned fast on that.
First time he'd done a major concert in Mississippi. You know, I think the only time he ever did it. But it was great to have that. And there were people. That's where people noticing people from out of town coming there. And the second year, when on short notice, Mayor Espy came up with the King Park idea, and then we went back to the depot for 2 years, and then it moved to Soldiers Field for 1 year. And there was controversy on a couple of those locations because the talk was that white people wouldn't go to King Park, and black people wouldn't come to Soldiers Field, which was somewhat true, I think, if you looked at the crowds. Downtown where the depot was seemed to be the central location where we could all come together. So that's really how it ended up here. And it was on a loading dock here until the actual Delta Blues Museum stage was built on the other side.
I just lost the thought, but I have something there. But, oh well, it's around here somewhere. Here, Catherine.
Catherine, we've been talking about the early years, and you and Mr. Tillis have been involved all along, and Patty and I haven't for the last 10, 12 years.
Last 10, 12 years. So the last 12 years, I've been the treasurer, so I've just been on the money side. You know, and of course, we have our ups and our downs. We've had our low points and our good points. But through it all, we try to work together. We're more than just an organization. The one thing that's kept us going is because we're a family. You know, we see each other all year. We're always working on the blues. I mean, there's never a time we have our own jobs and our family, but it's always the blues. We're always saying, well, who are we gonna get next year? What are we gonna do? Well, how are we gonna get this money? Have you written that grant yet? Have you done this yet? Have you contacted it? You know, so we're always together. So we're a family. And just like families, you know, we have our squabbles, and some members leave and they come back for a few years, but it's always good. We're always a family.
She hard to deal with. She tell me in a minute, how you gonna get that money for that? I said, cool down, baby. I'm gonna get it. You know this is too high. Tell me that in a minute. And I tell her, I'm gonna get it. Ask her, do I get it?
Yes.
Most of the time. But talking about how we move the fest around, this is off the cuff. And I always say something off the cuff. I'm on one person. And so now you got to watch what I say. They talking about putting up a new thing down on Sunflower Road Blues Association. Now I mean put up something on Sunflower Road down there. We had it down there one time. We moved it. Clark said is talking about doing that building. If you go down Sunflower, you see a big sign to how they're receiving the money. They want to build a new stage down there. Because I disagree with it. I disagree with it one reason. Because I've been on that down there on Sunflower Road Blues, Sunflower Bank for 20-some odd years. That water come up there. You tell, Donica.
That's right. I lived on the river.
It come up there. I had all kind of snakes in my place when I had it. You didn't know they was upstairs. They stayed upstairs. I didn't go up there.
We had to dance real hard in there.
Yeah. So that's when I disagree with where they put them, but that's what the city wanted to do. because we got a new man in here, and that's what they see. But I'm only one person to disagree. I just speak out my side.
From somebody who comes from a cooler weather climate, we can't deal with those bugs.
That's right.
We like it up here better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's really hard for us.
Honey, we're going to stay here. Believe it or not, as long as I'm there, and as long as Jim O'Neill, all of them come back in and fight for us to stay right here.
We're scared of those bugs and the snakes. So if you want people from cold weather climates coming, a little bit easier.
Now, one thing I have to tell you though, a pretty good amount of the community feels the exact same way you do. And that's, you know, I disagree with you completely with putting a stage down there. I think the stages that are already built need to be utilized a whole lot more, as well as many of the other people that I've talked to. Some of them are very much involved with the blues, and some of them aren't at all. Some of them are just, you know, members of the community that like to go out and do events. But the other thing is there's also no parking over there.
That's right.
There's still no parking over there. There will be no way that anybody could host a decent festival over there without causing danger to other people's lives. People are going to park in all kinds of places, and there's going to be bad traffic going through there. And I just think it's a bad idea. I think you're, just to let you know, you're not alone in those feelings.
Well, we're going to have people to speak out. And ain't nobody giving you nothing, honey. So speak out. You did it by your groceries this morning?
Of course not.
Well, speak out. Speak out. Ask yourself. Man, I speak out. I don't care. You know what I mean? You don't hit me upside my head, but I got to speak out. I might lose some position I had, but I didn't have them in the beginning. Didn't have them in the beginning. And they didn't point me there because, you know, and while I was there, I spoke out. You understand that? And I speak loud. I let everybody know it.
Come on.
Yes.
I have a question. Why August?
I think, and I have thought
Now,
about that.
you got to talk to them about that. I'm just following their rules.
The first one was in June, but we were also taking a lot of artists to the Chicago Blues Festival, and I think we decided that there was a conflict because that same weekend would be when we were taking our musicians to Chicago. And so I think that's why we moved it to August. Does that sound about right?
I know that was probably a factor, yeah.
Yeah. Because that letter didn't go out until July.
Right. And
so we'd already chosen August.
Yeah.
For,
and I think it was because there was no other festivals then. It wasn't in competition with the Delta Blues Festival or King Biscuit, which are in September and October.
Right.
And people always complain about it being so hot, but it's not as hot here as it is in Kansas City, where I live. So I don't, you know, if you're going to be out, you might as well be here. I remember the mosquitoes were a big factor at Martin Luther King Park.
They were a big factor.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's another reason to consider that. You know, this year the festival in Leland, the Highway 61 Blues Festival, and King Biscuit have kind of come together in a promotional effort to make a whole blues week, and with events in between, you know, in Indianola, Clarksdale, and wherever they can have to try to keep people here, because that's always been part of the tourism problem is to keep people here for more than one night. You know, at least for the festival, people would come here for a weekend, but now they maybe stay here for a week. But one of the letters I found here was a letter we wrote to the King Biscuit Festival in 1991, asking them that they want a partner to have our festival 1 week before theirs. Eventually, we did have a vote here to try to move the festival. So people wanted to move it to, I forget when, some more reasonable time than August, and it was a tie vote, and I had to cast a tie-breaking vote to keep it in August.
I think we considered April for a while, and now of course we've got the Juke Joint Festival in April.
Right, there was no Juke Joint Festival here at that time either. Ground Zero wasn't here.
No.
You know, there's a lot of things that weren't here at that point. A couple of the people I think we ought to mention was Penny Mayfield from the Press Register. she's been just a diehard promoter of everything behind the blues ever since we moved here. I don't think we might not have come to Clarksdale if it hadn't been for her. She was a big force. Patty and I were looking for a place to start a business, and we were ready to go to either to Greenville or stay in Marigold, but ended up here because Laura Sidgraves had the Blues Museum, and Penny and John Mayo, who was the mayor, who was really behind everything.
Do you remember the day that we walked into the Blues Museum, that Sid and John Mayo, they had invited us up here? We were in Marigold at the time, and we came up here, and we had the kids and everything. We walk in the door, and there's a bunch of guys in suits, you know, standing in a line, like a receiving line, and we went, oh my gosh, somebody's coming here. Let's just go. We almost turned around and walked away. Well, apparently it was for us. They were welcome. They wanted us here bad. And John Mayo and several other people drove us around and offered us the new Roxy Theater for $1. Yes, they wanted us to come here, and Penny was very instrumental in that. I remember her front porch being one of the nicest places I'd ever been in my life.
So what year was that, Patty? 87?
88.
88?
Yeah, we moved here in 88.
Yeah. But I think, maybe we met here in 87.
Probably 87. And the first year of the festival, Penny was with the paper then, and so we didn't have, you know, a regular program, but all of it was in the newspaper. It was like an insert in the newspaper, and I think she did that for a few years. The actual festival thing was just part of the paper. The Press Register obviously was supporting us too.
Right, I wanted to... my sister, Julie Buchanan, and her husband, who she met down here after he came to find son Thomas, they worked on the festival a long time too. And Colin worked at a printing company, so for several years we were able to print a separate program for the festival because of his connections there. And he would do all the layout, and we had some of this is pretty off-the-wall literature from I think maybe Nancy might have written some of it, and Dr. E.H. Summer,
Yes.
also known as Dan Weedy, he contributed some essays. And so there's some...
So that means they're really off the wall.
But these will be in the archive here so that anyone can look at them. But that was another one. And then Nancy Kosman has been a big part of all the festival activities almost since the beginning, and she's been with the Blues Association, with the Stackhouse, and she's done a lot. So thank you, Nancy. Does anybody have any questions?
I wanted to say one thing. You mentioned the year that we did the Thompson Center and we had Otis Rush. One of the most wonderful things about doing the festival was to be able to bring home some of the musicians who were from here and who had not returned for one reason or another. Otis Rush, Ike Turner, Little Milton played here. A lot of these people, and that was truly an honor to be able to have a venue for them to come home. And I don't think Otis had been home in some 30 years. We took him to Philadelphia, where he's from, or where he was born, and he got to see if there was. Those kinds of things were very, very, very special to be able to do that. And Ike and that crew, the year that Ike was here, oh my goodness! I mean, and everybody, all of the old musician friends, Gate Mount Moore, and they all just came to be with him. Yeah, and that was a particularly wonderful thing. Pinetop Perkins came home, and now there's a whole homecoming festival for him every year. Right. So, yeah.
Right, there was kind of a disconnect for a number of years between Chicago and Mississippi, even though, you know, hundreds of blues musicians had moved from here to Mississippi, but they weren't coming back. And so I think the Sunflower Festival was the first one to bring a lot of them back. And now they started to come back. Now people know who Eddie Clearwater, Magic Slim, people like that are, but nobody knew them down here at that point.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I remember one of the joys of the festival was booking the traditional stage, which was held on the lawn of the old, what's the library now. It used to be the Delta Blues Museum over there too. And we'd have people like Jack Owens and from Bentonia and Eugene Powell. And among the volunteers, it was always a big honor to be able to be the one to go pick up Jack, pick up Eugene. I just remember people would drive, people would come from all over the place, the hardcore blues fans, and if they were the ones to be designated to be the pickup guys, they were just thrilled.
It had its own dangers, didn't it? The year that we were at Soldiers Field, and I have some photos of this somewhere, apparently everybody got injured. Jim picking up people got dog bit.
Right.
So who were you picking up?
That was John Hurt, Mississippi John Hurt.
And his leg was all bandaged up. Terry Williams, Big T, had cut his arm open, and Fast Eddie, what was his last name? Who played with, they played behind.
Gillespie from Rawls and Luckett.
Right, from Rawls and Luckett. They were playing with Willie Cobbs. His foot was in a cast. So we had this whole first aid area there with all of these broken people. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I forgot that was a festival experience too, going to pick up John Hurt. We couldn't find his house, and
what you need?
Went to his yard, tried to knock on the door, and all of a sudden 2 dogs came around from the back and started chasing. And Larry Hoffman was with me. We ran as fast as we could. Larry was a little faster than I was. He didn't get it, but one of the dogs got me right on the leg. But I didn't miss the festival though.
You made it back. You made it back. That's true.
Did he notice that you were there?
Oh, he wasn't there. There was nobody home at that house. Well, we finally found him and brought him over.
And John Hurt just just showed up one year.
He came one year.
He came one year on his own. And he'd written us a couple of letters, and he'd written some to Sid, and saying who he was, and then he just showed up at the festival. I was like, oh my gosh, John Hurt Jr. is here. And then he played the next year. Yeah, that was good.
I'll comment after.
Yeah, another person who started just showing up kind of was Big George Brock. We found out he would be in town. If we knew that he would be in town, then we'd put him on the festival. But he got pretty well known after Roger Kent had recorded and started promoting him. But he had been coming here for a number of years before, and he and Big Jack would play at the River Mount sometimes. And he would bring an entourage of women with him from St. Louis, and they would all be down on the floor.
and whatever color suit he had on, whichever lady came with him would have that same color suit on. It was just amazing. I just said, well, you can find out which woman he's with just to see what color. If he's wearing red, she has red on.
I'm gonna, at the risk of maligning anyone at all, we've had a few adventures, particularly with Robert Walker, Bo Walker. Now, we put him on the festival quite a few times. He had a way, though, of wanting special billing, and so he would always show up late. And we finally, this had broken down, or that had broken down, or this fell off his van, and he was on his way out here, and he just, got waylaid. But we finally got on to him, and finally one year said, no, you're not the headliner, you're not going on this year, show up on time. And he started showing up better on time.
Yeah, he wanted to be the headliner over Denise LaSalle one year, I think.
So he showed up.
But I believe, if you ever travel with him, you could believe that he would break down or get arrested or something would happen to him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That part was probably true. Yeah.
I think and Bobby Rush was maybe one of the first headliners that we had who really came in, who was a name draw. And, you know, we had the local headliners we could for several years, and that was usually Big Jack or Lonnie Shields or Booba Barnes.
Right.
But I think Bobby Rush kind of started us on another trend, and I think that became an important element of the festival. One of the things that we tried to do was present the oldest styles of blues that we could, which is like Big Jack and Jack Owens and the fife and drum band and people like that. And the contemporary bands that were playing in the juke joints like Big Jack, the Jelly Roll Kings, Wesley Jefferson, Johnny Billington, and Lonnie Shields.
And Pitcher.
Of course, Lonnie Pitcher kind of fit in both those categories. The young man playing the older styles and then like contemporary too. And then we started bringing in the headliners from what was called the Chitlin circuit or the soul blues circuit. And that would always ensure a pretty big crowd at night because sometimes the crowds were dwindling away at night without someone like Bobby Rush there. So Bobby Rush, Denise LaSalle, Little Milton, who were some of the others.
Obie Buchanan was on it.
Yeah, Obie Buchanan, David Brinston, and Lattimore's been here a few years, several times in recent years.
RL.
Yeah. RL. Yeah,
RL Jr.,
Right, those are more of the juke joint guys, but they had a pretty big draw too, but they weren't the same as
Jay Blackfoot. We had Jay Blackfoot.
And Jay Blackfoot, right. And then Charlie Musselwhite started coming in and became a real popular act here. And Charlie I don't know when Charlie had been here before, played in Mississippi before Henrietta. This is Charlie's wife. When did Charlie play in Mississippi before he came
Not
here?
often. Maybe in Jackson.
Yeah, he probably played in Jackson.
Circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Charlie met Pan.
Right.
And that's when the whole thing started to happen here for,
Right. Yeah, Panny's been important.
It all leads back to Panny sometimes.
Right, yeah, it does. And the fact that Robert Plant is here. Right, the fact that Robert Plant's here this year is certainly due to Panny.
Right.
You know.
Did you ever hire Big Joe Williams?
No, he died before the festival started.
No.
Of course, we would have.
Well, yeah, I guess he did. He died in
82, when the festival started in 88.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, any of the older guys that were still around that we could find, we did. And we tried to, one thing we also tried to do was to bring in different people every year. People that nobody had heard. I mean, I made that claim in the newspaper one year. If you come to this festival, you're guaranteed to hear somebody you've never heard before. And we were able to do that. They could still be doing it. But
Big Booty and the Farm Boys?
Big Booty and the Farm Boys from Macomb.
Yeah.
That was one of the good finds.
You had a question over there.
When did the international crowd start taking interest?
Right away.
First year.
Yeah,
they were always.
It's grown, but they were always here.
Yeah.
You know, as long as we got the publicity out in time. That's one reason we went ahead and had that second festival. It was because we had publicized it. We knew people were going to be coming from overseas, and there wasn't either
Australia,
one. There was
Norwegian.
somebody from New Zealand who actually played on the festival, as I remember, down on the. Yes. I don't remember who it was, but someone who had come in town.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And so, but it's grown because by editing Living Blues for years before that, and having been in the record business, I knew how much of a hardcore following was overseas, and those people would want to come to Clarksdale, especially if we put on a real kind of pure blues festival, you know, not the kind of event that sometimes advertises blues festivals in other places.
Yeah, we really wanted to keep it the pure blues, and we certainly wanted to provide a venue for as many Mississippi musicians, blues musicians, as possible, and to give the fans the opportunity to see things that they wouldn't see anyplace else.
And to experience Mississippi.
And to experience Mississippi.
Get it.
Yeah. They driving through the cotton fields on a summer's night. My.
Yeah, I think one of the attractions, of course, has been not just the blues, but when people got here for the blues, to find friendly people just saying hello on the sidewalk for no apparent reason,
Yeah.
And so just the Southern hospitality has been a real big part of it, and I think the only negative thing I remember about that was there was a restaurant owner on Yazoo Avenue, an older white man who said to an Australian came in his shop, in his store, the restaurant one time to eat, and he asked why he was there. He said he was here to blues, and he said, "You mean you came all that way to hear black men play guitar?" Which was one of the statements we'd heard from one of the officials who became one of the tourism board. Yeah, bizarrely enough.
He's changed his tune.
Has he? Okay, right. Well, I guess if you see enough people here, you realize something must be going on. That's right. But yeah, I think the whole Southern experience, it's different here, and it's different going to a blues festival here than it is somewhere else too.
I was going to say one thing. Or
Sure.
Say something, sorry.
Good.
I was just going to say that I sort of got, the year that I was on Soldiersville, that was my first one, and I'm a local. I graduated from high school in '88, so I guess I didn't really realize it was even going on. But I heard about it a little bit and then went to, that was my very first blues festival that I remember getting involved in. And Snooky Pryor and Pinetop Perkins played, and they just, I felt like I had a blues experience, I was just like, oh my God, it was like being at church or something, where you just go, I love this, dancing in front of that stage. And so, years after that, I've always gone and tried to support it. But I just want to say thank y'all for getting this started here. I mean, it's just made such an impact on our community and on Clarksdale over the years.
Thank you. That's really nice. Thank you. Jen, it's funny because what I was going to say was that very thing. Nancy had a red convertible, and she brought Pinetop Perkins and Snooky Pryor, and they just drove down that hill and right up to the stage. And those guys were just looking sharp. They were in their suits and hats, and that was just a wonderful visual. And that red convertible.
I still got that picture you took. I just wanted to remember Sam and Doris too.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. The Jelly Roll King, Sam, Doris, Frank, Sam. What did you say?
CV in there.
CV?
He played with everybody, but yeah. The Jelly Roll Kings were, and David Porter. David Porter, yeah.
And Terry.
Terry, yeah. Artnice had did he play with them?
I don't know if he played with them, but
he had the Stone Gas Band.
Stone Gas Band.
With Howard Stovall, that's right. And graduates of Mr. Johnny Billington's blues classes too. Yeah.
Little Gino.
Little Gino. Yeah.
He was related to Big Jack somehow, I forget. And, right, but he would put on a lot of his own events around town.
Especially his birthday bash. His birthday bash at one of the gins going down, I don't know where is that.
He had one at, I think, Adams.
Yeah.
And one at Hobson.
Yeah.
But Sam Carr, he was really the backbone of a lot of the blues history here ever since going back to the 40s, I guess, when he played with his father, Robert Nighthawk, over in Helena, and then he moved to St. Louis, and then from about 1960 on, he and Frank Frost teamed up and were joined by Big Jack Johnson, and they were like the quintessential juke joint band around here, and they were an really important part. They were the ones that some people from outside the area knew. A lot of these others were unknown, so they could go to New York sometimes or to Europe and play. But Sam was always there to support and put things on. And his wife Doris was kind of like the unofficial social secretary. She kept a scrapbook.
Yes.
Everything that was in the newspaper, everybody's picture she would always have. And a lot of people who came to the area to see the blues would stay at their house out on Powell Road.
Did Early Wright, WROX has changed ownership several times, and the new owners are helping MC this year's festival, which we're very thankful for. But I just suddenly thought about Early and didn't know. I remember seeing him at the festivals, but didn't know if the radio station participated or if he was just such a cool guy that he was.
Well, the Juke Joint Saturday night, no, not Juke Joint Saturday night, the Delta Jamboree, that was WROX, and that was, who owned it then? Sparky
Reardon.
Sparky Reardon owned the station. And so it kind of morphed out of that. Early, of course, was the wonderful DJ who in the old Alcazar building you could drive by and honk your horn and he'd throw a tune in your back seat. So he was always, you know, really wonderful with the festival and everything. And eventually there is, of course, the Early Right Award that happened to support those who were supporting the blues.
Right, he wasn't actively involved with putting on the festival, but he was always supportive, and he was really honored. You know, we did the first Early Right Award; it actually went to him, and then he would want to know after that, "You giving me another award this year?" We started giving the award to other people.
What year was that he won that y'all started that?
That was 91.
91.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's also the Julie Sky Award for.
Yes.
Right, we're talking about Julie's guy a little bit, Mr. Tellis. You know, he was more than just a gospel co-founder. He did a lot of work, important work in Clarksdale.
Yeah. Well, Julie's guy was a master. He knew everybody, all the senators and everything. And he disagreed with most things like me. I mean, I got that. But whatever he worked at it hard. He helped me. We worked together, starting the gospel. We started everything together. We worked together, but he passed away early. Even for the town, he was a very outspoken person for the town. And anything that he knew everybody, he could call in everybody. We had people coming in from Memphis to try to give us a donation, and he would set it up. At one time, we had a man that would come in here and do a screen. And the picture you see in the mayor's office, them folk was the one that took it, and they gonna bring people in to get the money. But we couldn't get it done. And he was initiating of that. The people came in, met at my house, and met with the mayor at that time. But he told us to wait, and we did. We had to cut it off. A lot of things that you venture out to do don't always work because you need help from the city and from everybody in the city. You got to speak out, like I told the lady. Everything, but we are doing a whole lot better. You understand? Because maybe the not, Sherry don't know when she came to town, I had to speak out. We neither. She never knew anything about it. Nobody know how much power you have, because I'm not a person that talk. I just tell you what I dislike, but if I can say something good, I'm out for it. And if you're doing good, I'm with you. I watch, I enjoy. Clarksdale is my home, like I said. I'm trying to improve it any way I can.
I wanted to say one more thing about Joey Sky. He was a man way ahead of his time in terms of so many things. He started a program, this is way in the 80s, of growing greens, saying everybody grow greens, and we're gonna feed ourselves and not be so dependent on, you know, the markets and things. But he got whole neighborhoods to have little neighborhood gardens, and that was just a wonderful thought. I mean, once people had moved in from the farms, they kind of lost their whole, you know, gardening initiatives. But he wanted to put that back, and that's a look at the green movement now.
And not only that, they stopped that little green mile because he was getting too big and they wouldn't rent the place no more. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, Mr. Guy was an activist who really did things to help the community, and that reminded me of other people who've been involved in that. And one person who I mentioned is Wade Walton.
Yeah.
And Wade was an officer of the NAACP here. He ran his own barber shop, but he was the original blues contact here for a lot of people. I've found documentation going back to the 1950s, and if people didn't know, there weren't very many people interested in coming to find blues, but someone who wanted to come record artists or just to learn about the blues, he would go to Wade Walton's barbershop. That became known. And Paul Oliver, the great British blues author, who's done a number of books on the blues, he and Chris Strocklitz, I think, came here from Chris Strocklitz from Arhoolie Records, one of the best blues and folk record labels. They came here in 1960, recorded Wade and some other people, including Robert Curtis Smith, who was always one of my favorites, became a preacher later. But Wade was their contact, and then I found Donald Hill from New York, they were from California. They came in 1958 to see Wade, and again a few years later, and they wanted to find out about songs at Parchman. And so Wade took them to Parchman Penitentiary because they know that Alan Lomax had recorded a lot of blues and folk songs and gospel songs at Parchman. And they got quickly turned around by the guard there and told Wade he knew better than to bring those boys there. And Wade made a song about it. It's on his Prestige album about going to Parchman with them. And I found an article in the Village Voice from the late 60s, and some people from New York had wanted to come and do the same thing, basically to record some blues and find out about blues in the South. And the only people they knew to contact, and this was from what Paul Oliver and Mac McCormick had done, was Wade Walton in Clarksdale and Sam Chapman in Hollandale. And so they went to see Wade, and they recorded him, and those recordings never come out. There's actually several albums worth of Wade Walton from the late 50s through the 60s that were never released. But anyway, Wade continued to be, when I first started coming to Clarksdale, I was living in Chicago at the time. That was the first place I went. Somehow I knew to go there. I forget who told me. I guess that was just the blues lore, that if you want to know what's going on in Clarksdale, you go to Wade's. And at that time, there weren't a lot of tourists coming in, so Wade would take off, and he'd go to, take us around different clubs in town and had people come meet us. I met Jackie Brinston at the Wade's barbershop and called Jackie to come over and be interviewed. And so Wade continued to do that, and it was always a place you could go, and Wade would play his harmonica and his guitar in a razor strap. And he had a club for a while, which was another kind of unfortunate incident. That was one of the pitfalls of when some people saw that Clarksdale was developing into a place where people were coming for the blues. Someone talked Wade Walton into expanding his place and making a nightclub, and he and some other people in town lost a lot of money in that. I never really got the full story on all that.
Well, yeah, this guy just really ripped a lot of people off. Wade was just brokenhearted to not have his barbershop anymore. But the guy left in the middle of the night with a whole bunch of furniture that was not ever paid for. I'm trying to remember the man.
Johnny Stewart.
Johnny Stewart, yeah. Mr. Jenkins lost his whole life savings. Just that they conned him out of it. So unfortunately, this Wade and the blues scene became a bit of a mark, but thank goodness that guy's gone. Far away. That was a horrible situation.
Yeah, so Wade would play at the festival a number of times, but some years he really didn't want to take off because he had such good business at the barbershop that he'd make more there than we could pay him to play.
When I started graduate school
at the Center for Southern Studies, Bill Ferris would load up busloads of scholars or whoever, and that was part of my education, bringing them over here, and that would be the first stop, and we would be treated to Wade and Bill's entertainment.
Well, Jim mentioned that he was the head of the NAACP here, and that area, 4th Street, which is now Martin Luther King, 4th Street, and it's near Issaquena. This was very, very involved in the civil rights era. Aaron Henry's drugstore, and that unfortunately is not there any longer. But that was a real headquarters there, and the churches that are all in that area. Some of them are still surviving, but that very, very important in the civil rights era.
Yeah, one of the things you can find online now is the notes or reports of the Sovereignty Commission, which was a white organization in the 60s trying to counter state agency. Yeah, right. Yeah, it was to monitor civil rights activities and the agitators, and to help preserve the status quo in Mississippi, actually. But you can find Wade in there because these two guys from California became, they knew who Wade was because they knew who all the NAACP people were. But there's a report about the two guys in California, Don Hill and Dave Mangurian, and they were picked up by the police because they had spent the night with Wade. Oh. And I think Wade either did take him to a black church with him or wanted to. And so the sheriff picked them up and, told them, we don't do that here. And, but they didn't have such a hard time after that. I mean, they let them go, and in the end, the reporter for the Sovereignty Commission said that they had concluded that they weren't here to agitate, that they were just crack bombs.
There's a recent book called Clarksdale at the Crossroads, that a woman came here as an exchange student from England, and she's just published it. This book just got published, and she's done lots and lots of research and interviews on the civil rights era, and it's a very, very good book. There's a few errors in it, but not so much about the civil rights, only contemporary stuff right at the end. But it's a good book, and she's done a lot of research. It's worth looking at if you're interested in the civil rights era.
Some of the interesting visitors who came to Wade Walden's were actually, if you see the Mississippi Blues Trail marker that's at the location of one of his old barber shops, and you see the pictures on there. There's a picture of Allen Ginsberg getting his haircut there, and standing beside him is Harry Smith, who produced the Anthology of American Folk Music, I think, in 1951 or 52, which was one of the key components in the whole folk revival, and where a lot of collectors outside the blues community first heard a lot of old blues. And so they're both in that photo that was taken by Billy Cochran, who used to work here too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sort of moving on to another subject, I sort of wanted to acknowledge that the Sunflower River Blues Festival really has kick-started an awful lot of other festivals here. This was the first festival. We have the Tennessee Williams Festival, we have the Juke Joint Festival. Exile on Sunflower was with us for a while, a fun little thing. And now the other, different merchants and things are doing a little bit here, a little bit there. There's the Clarksdale Caravan. There's several other festivals, which I'm afraid I'm forgetting their names. But it's kick-started that, and so I think we all need to be very grateful and proud that the Sunflower has managed to create something else too. Things are really moving forward and bringing a lot of people here. Did you say something?
One thing in particular, just in terms of the same thing we were just saying, bringing a lot of people here, there's so many tourists that have come here to become, they've come here to see the festival and have actually ended up staying. And are permanent residents of Clarksdale. And there's so much of that that, I mean, as a child growing up here with the festival, I saw so much of that with people coming in and literally just staying. And the reason why they stayed was 90% of the time that they came to a festival and loved it, couldn't leave, or had to come back.
Yeah, I read one of the recent brochures about Clarksdale, maybe it's online or something, I forget what the slogan is authentic but quirky, come here if you like that. And that certainly wasn't we were the quirky ones. I don't think the Chamber of Commerce would have put that out back then.
No, I don't think so. Of course, Shelley and the Delta Blues Museum, they are the ones that keep the records. So they have seen how this growth in terms of tourism all year long, they know. They've got the numbers of how many people have come through and how much it's expanding and how much from one year to the next. So they've got the data.
The evidence.
The evidence, that's right.
Yeah. I guess that'll be another panel. We can tell the history of the Blues Museum, but just a little bit. When Sid started, it was in the Myrtle Hall Elementary School. And it was in one room of that school, and it was on a lot. Oh, Sid would actually. He had a few. Yeah, he had just a few things on exhibit there, and at night he would take them out, take them home with him. And whenever someone would call and want to go see the Blues Museum, he would take them over there and that would be it. And it was about like maybe once a month, I think. Like, I don't know if you have the figures on that, but
I do.
yeah. And then it moved to the library, and
one month 500 people came, and they just couldn't handle it. That's when they were having to. That's why I think why it started to move from the library, and it's very funny to read those old minutes. Because many of the people in the community who now want to walk up and tell me that they're the reason that we have a blues museum are some of the very people who are opposing the museum's origins back in 1979 and 1980, and it's quite funny to see the full circle. But yeah, 500 people came, and Bill Ferris came over a lot, and then in the library meeting, we're still in the book business. Very good. But now we're up to about, we've had as many as 2,000 people in a month before. We're about at 1,200 people a month right now.
That's a lot.
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Until this weekend.
Yeah.
So when did the whole Sister City thing start?
That was in '96. I think that was something that Annie got going too in a while. I forget. Well, I'm not sure. I remember I was interviewed by one of the Norwegian journalists, and he said that he was the one who had proposed it to the mayor, because Notodden had started this blues festival. They started the blues festival over there the same year that Sunflower started. And they were a small town, and the festival was a big deal to them, just like it's become here to Clarksdale. And so they wanted, I'm not sure whose idea it was. I think it came from Norway, actually, because at least what the journalist told me was that he had talked to the mayor, and they wanted to make Helena their sister city, because Helena had the most well-known blues festival. And that's a great blues festival too. I think a lot of the reason that some people in Clarksdale supported the festival was here, was because of the success of King Biscuit Blues Festival in Helena, and which was bigger, probably still is, than Clarksdale. And of course, there's always this Arkansas-Mississippi competition going on too. But the journalist said he had originally proposed Helena, but then he changed his mind once he came to Clarksdale, because the difference is you go to Helena, there's really nothing going on the rest of the year. In Clarksdale, there's people recording, there's people in the juke joints, there's the Delta Blues Museum. It was like a year-round thing here, so it was more of the real home of the blues for what he considered a sister city should be, and that. So that's how it happened, and Penny Mayfield entertained the Norwegians who came over to visit, and introduced them to Southern soul food, and they started this exchange where Norwegian bands would play on the festival, and people from Clarksdale, like Super Chicken, would go to Norway. But that was an interesting development, you know, and I wasn't crazy about hearing Norwegians play the blues here, but it's a nice exchange.
Yeah, zip my lips, but I mean, truly this, thank you, Shelley. Truly this festival was started to give Mississippi musicians the opportunity to perform, many of whom would never go on tour, never be going anyplace else. And so it's a little awkward when, you know, it's not that the Norwegians can't play the blues. That's not, that it wasn't the purpose of the festival. I wanted a venue for Mississippi artists. But it is what it is, so moved along.
Yeah, I mean, possibly part of the reason it's grown is because the scope is expanded on stage. If you look at, compare a schedule from the 90s to now, it's quite different.
Well, and there's just an unfortunate aside to that. Unfortunately, we have lost so many of the older blues musicians and even some of the younger ones who were very much a part of our festivals before. I mean, the list is very long. Looking through the old schedules, it's difficult sometimes. These were not only wonderful musicians, but great friends, and so we just want to say, all right, guys, thanks, and girls.
Yeah, but the intent was always to focus on Mississippi artists, either people who lived here or once lived here. And for the first several years, we made that exclusively. It was all Mississippi people. You know, there was a little objection in Katie Webster's book, but she's from Louisiana. You know. A line she was we counted Helena as part of the Delta, so that was okay to bring people from over there, Arkansas. But I think, and even the headliners, you know, Bobby Rush, Denise LaSalle, Charlie Musselwhite. I mean, Bobby lives in Jackson, but Denise lives in Tennessee and Charlotte's in California, but they were from Mississippi, so they were all qualified to come back. But I think festivals still do that for the most part, you know.
Well, we got a little lenient, but we said, do you have a granddaddy that They said, yeah. Okay, then that's okay. We got to say that one more time. Did you have a granddaddy? Right? Okay, we got you. Come on, sign on the contract. We got you. Your grandmama was born in Mississippi. Sign right here, baby.
A lot of people know Malcolm, Lightning Malcolm, and Malcolm and Cedric were the duo, and now juke joint duo, and then Malcolm is now playing with someone else. But years ago, and someplace in your archives, he wanted to be on the festival. This is sometime in the early '90s, and he said, "But I play the blues, and I really, really want to come here." And he sent this promo package, and I tell you what, I had to just talk to him. I said, he was really, really young. I said, this is a Mississippi Blues Festival. This is for Mississippi musicians. Well, by golly, he'd moved here.
Yeah, there were several musicians who moved here. Like it was said earlier, like you said, Aaliyah. What's his name? Eric from...
Oh,
from North Carolina.
Yeah, Eric Deaton.
Eric Deaton. Yeah, his father would come to the Stackhouse, and he would come to the Blues Festival. He became a regular visitor, and he would bring his son along with him, and the son got so entranced with it all that he moved here, became a musician too.
He was still in high school, and he finished high school in Senatobia, so he could play with R.L. Burnside and Junior Kimbrough. So he apprenticed with some of the best. And he still plays the hill country type music.
Henriette, what have you thought about Clarksdale? You probably had never been here before Charlie was booked here, right?
Probably not. I can't remember if he was booked here or if we came to visit Pam's for the first times. I think maybe we were visiting Pam actually. And I think maybe he had met her in Jackson or something like that. I'm unclear on that, but Clarksdale's always been really great for us, and it has really changed a lot of the overt racism that we used to see when we would come to Clarksdale, and when people would say things to me, and like I don't find that anymore, or I don't hear it. I'm not getting it, which is really nice. So that's been a big change. It's been just really great experience. It's a real hard thing for me. And I know for Charlie, and now we're, with Bill Talbot, we're building a house here, so we'll be more here.
Right, you had some property here, right? You bought it.
Across from the Shacks.
What happened to Delta Hardware? I know there was talk of that for a while.
It turned out that real estate was really inexpensive to buy here. But to fix it up was really expensive and really hard. And you had to live here to do it. And we just couldn't manage it. So we got out of the Delta Hardware building, and then we got into the building on Sunflower that's now Lady of the Levee. And the same thing was happening there. We just could not find people to work for us. I mean, it was really, for a Californian, it was really perplexing what we couldn't get done. It really was. So Joe, the realtor Joe, was able to find a buyer, which was Lady of the Levee, and so we sold that, and then later on partnered with Bill Talbot and this land across the tracks from the Shacks.
Okay.
Yeah, so we kept going, and now we're in this fabulous position where Bill's doing it, and all we have to do is pay for half of it.
Great.
It's like really great, and Bill's the way we like with found materials, and he's such a fabulous guy. We're really fortunate to be partners with him. Yeah. For Charlie, it's really a homecoming. For me, I'm along for the ride, but I like it.
New homecoming.
Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know, she's talking about the Shack Up Inn and Hobson Commissary, but the house is across from the Shack Up Inn, and it's built in 1854.
1880. I think.
1880.
That was moved from Rich.
It's really great, and that's another thing that has developed over these years too. That the huge Shack Up Inn is one of the most unusual places to stay, and that we look at a lot of the other things. Big Pink, the Couture has been is got the Delta State and Coahoma Community College. That's been saved, and the old Clark House, John Clark's house. A lot of national historic places have kind of come along and grown up with this, even though they're older. But yeah.
Anything else?
Questions?
I have a question about the gospel component. I know you have the event on Sunday after the festival.
Yes.
And it's usually an indoor event?
It's usually indoor, but this year we put it outside. And the tent gonna be open. You don't have to pay yourself on the tent. If you think you're too hot, you can set up on the tent. The tent's gonna be remaining up, and we're gonna have air conditioning in the tent. But for Blues Fest, we charge you to set up on the tent, we charge, you had to buy a table. But for the Gospel Fest, you can't set it up on the tent in a certain place unless you are one of the person that don't pay for the table and you come back. But most likely, we usually have some extra tables that you could set in. But at that time, good Lord gonna bless us. It's gonna be real cool.
I noticed when I come to this festival, there's a great age range from grandmothers, great-grandmothers, down to infants.
Yes.
And that's always exciting for me to see here, not just the cultural mix, but the age mix.
Yes. We expect to have that this year.
And on a good night, you can see all of them out there dancing.
Nancy, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to ask y'all, put everybody on the spot and ask what everybody's favorite festival memory was. On the panel. At least one, at least y'all come up with one each, right?
There's been so many, they blurred now.
I was really happy with the 97 festival when Ike Turner came back and played with Lowell Milton.
Yeah.
And we had Willie Foster playing with Frank Frost and Sam Carr. And that was, to me, that was the best lineup we ever had.
That was wonderful. Catherine?
Maybe the year we had the old Muddy Waters group, Hubert Summerlin and all of them together. It was nice seeing them together because we knew they might not be here that much longer. So it was nice having them around. And always, Pine Top, and they were always nice to have around because,
I don't know if I have a favorite at all. There were so many that were so wonderful, and I have a lot of wonderful memories and feel just fortunate to have seen so many wonderful people.
I remember it was really fun to see Booba Barnes on stage. He was the headliner of maybe the fourth year, I think. I remember when it was on the loading dock, and he was locking the stage. And one year, I don't know if it was that year or another year, he brought his brother-in-law down from Chicago who played just like Elmore James, and I was just blown away. His name was Jerry Jones, and it was a great show that year.
Wow, he was wonderful. Yeah. Of course, getting, Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside. R.L. Burnside was on stage when we had a devastating, Charlie was here that year too, a devastating horizontal rainstorm that came on so fast. We were out here. We had to unplug RL, very quickly. All the equipment got wet. Everything was soaked. It just came on, boom, and it was there.
Because then we moved everybody into the Thompson Center?
We couldn't find...
it was Thompson Center one year,
Well, that was another year, because we couldn't get anything that year. This was 98. Yeah, we could not get any place to put anybody. We used a few clubs up and down the street, but that was supposed to be the year that Rufus was going to be here, but Rufus had just passed away, and Carla came, and so, yeah. Was he sick?
He got sick.
He gotten sick, yeah. Okay, but that rain it just plowed in. Never seen anything like that.
Wow.
I remember one of the great events surrounding the festival was, a lot of times there would be music after the festival at different clubs. And one year, I didn't go to this, but I was told about it by some people who did. I think R.L. Burnside and Big Jack and I forget who else, but it was a whole group. It was like some of the greatest blues jam session ever happened at the Rivermount. And Bill Stieber, who's a photographer, who's done a lot of great work. He's had some exhibits here, and he's also a musician. He told me he got so excited that he had to get up and play, and he apologized to me. He said, "No, I'm not supposed to do that. This is supposed to be for the real blues artists." But that was the night I'm sorry I missed.
Well, the jamming afterwards started right away. Jesse Mae Hemphill went down to the Cotton Exchange, which was a bar a couple doors down. Apparently played there for, 6 hours straight after her set. This is the first year. Everybody was just excited to be able to do this, just move and move and move.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that first year was a whole different feeling than I don't think it ever completely got back to what it was. Maybe it is now. But there was a whole group of people who were really excited about doing something in Clarksdale. The mayor, John Mayo, and Henry Esty was real supportive when he came in too, but John Mayo had all these ideas about blues tourism and things too. And the Mississippi Delta Arts Council at that time was a viable organization that could support things. And they were based here in Clarksdale. And Marion Stringer was with them from the Stringer funeral home family, a prominent family here in Clarksdale. And John Mohead had just opened a club called the Cotton Exchange, and we had just opened the Stack House on Sunflower Avenue, had T-Model and Ernest Royce Sr. playing our grand opening on Muddy Waters' birthday. And so the radio station, WROX, with Early and with Andy McWilliams, were really on board for, we're starting to broadcast these Delta Jamboree broadcasts. So there's a whole movement at that point, and Annie Mayfield from the press register was pushing everything. And so there's a lot of excitement, and then, it kind of just immediately went away. Except for a few people that kept it going, but I remember that was very exciting at that year.
It really was. The beginnings of the Tourism Commission, actually, there were meetings with a number of people, including Mitch Stent, who was the head of the Chamber of Commerce then. We met in the Cotton Exchange and discussed starting a tourism commission. And not long after that, Ray Mavis, who was the governor, actually started the first blues commission here. You remember that? The board of directors, and I can't remember
was that John Horn was on that?
John Horn,
yeah.
You and I, Walter Linegar, Sid Graves, Malcolm White. I know I'm forgetting a few people. But I think we had 2 meetings and we're working on the bylaws, and then I think Mr. Mavis was replaced by Fordyce. So that was the end of the Blues Commission, except that now it's back. Which so these are all the startup things, but the whole tourism commission idea, the Tourism Council was what it was going to be called. So.
Right, and the whole, not just the Sunflower Festival, but the Delta Blues Festival, the other things in the area, on King Biscuit, which is in Arkansas, but still the Delta. But the whole interest in blues did lead to the Blues Commission and eventually to the Mississippi Blues Trail, which has been another big promotional effort. I mean, a lot of people who don't know anything about blues see these markers and they become interested, and it's become a major component of travel in Mississippi. And a lot of that grew out of tourists coming to Clarksdale, and they would ask us where to go, and I would try to give them directions, and who knows where they ended up. And I found they ended up writing a little map kit for people to get to Muddy Waters' house and Charlie Patton's Ferry and things like that. And so we were able to reuse a lot of that information for the Mississippi Blues Trail.